On the 4th of October 1669, Rembrandt Harmison van Rijn, once the artistic darling of Amsterdam, died without great acknowledgement or fanfare, leaving behind 13 paintings judged by the notary who listed them as unfinished. Among them was Rembrandt's last rendering of the gospel story, The Return of the Prodigal Son. It was a common theme in Dutch art of the 16th and 17th centuries, capturing as it did the essence of a faith grounded not on the efforts of people, but the mercy of God. Yet the matchless skill and empathy displayed in this particular depiction was sufficient for art critic Kenneth Clark to call it the greatest picture ever painted. The story of a wayward younger son demanding his inheritance before his father died and frittering it away on the life of parties had been depicted some 34 years earlier by Rembrandt. Yet that visualization of the story was filled with ambiguity about what the central message Rembrandt wanted to portray actually was. The background of the scene, placed in a brothel, is certainly filled with the judgmental 17th century symbolism that might be usual to such a depiction. The peacock, the standard emblem of vanity, is there, and a tally board sits on the wall in the background, reminding everybody of a reckoning that was yet to come. The woman in the brothel, the model for which was Rembrandt's own wife Saskia, seems also less than enthusiastic about the party. But at the same time, the upturned edges of her mouth leave some room for doubt, and the main figure of the prodigal, a self-portrait of Rembrandt, is a joyful, foppish cavalier, raising his wineglass high and hardly seeming to regret his prodigal choices. But 34 years later, Rembrandt was a different man. No longer a sought-after fashionable artist, he had faced bankruptcy, relational breakdown, family tragedy, and the reality of his own failures. And this different man painted a very different prodigal. In The Return of the Prodigal Son, the prodigal's shoes are broken, his feet lacerated or pierced, his clothes are ragged and torn. As we move up his body, he seems to be the depiction of a broken man. Even his head, shaved as a sign of repentance, might also be a symbol of slavery. The fine clothes and curled hair of Rembrandt's cavalier prodigal and the pastoring finery of this world have entirely disappeared. As Simon Schama puts it, we understand he has hobbled painfully home towards atonement. Not that this was a universally welcomed return. In the Gospel of Luke, the prodigal's disapproving older brother only arrives on the scene later, but here it is widely believed he is depicted in the homecoming scene as the upright figure on the right-hand side of the painting, identified with authority by his red cape and hat, but wringing his hands in displeasure rather than opening them in welcome. Seemingly in agreement are other ominous figures, probably completed by Rembrandt's followers after his death, lurking in the shadowy background. This seen and unseen disapproval would have been recognised well by Rembrandt from his various rejections by well-to-do Amsterdam society. If there is, though, the slightest hint that some of the disapproval had justification, it is to be found in the sword that hangs at the prodigal's side, a symbol of nobility that had seemingly not been given up, even in the prodigal's humiliation. But if this is Rembrandt's intention, it only makes the message stronger. Despite everything, the Father is ready to forgive. After all, if forgiveness were reasonable, then it wouldn't be forgiveness. Rembrandt's use of light doesn't then just direct us towards the repentant Son or the forgiving Father. Instead, it draws our eye to them as one unity. So unlike the older brother, the younger son does not need his own red cloak because he is under the covering of the blood-red cloak of his Father. In the centre of this unified duo, looking at the prodigal's face, we see that the key figure is no longer a self-portrait, no longer Rembrandt, but the lightly drawn, indistinct features of the returning son also mean that it could be seen as representing him, inasmuch as it could be seen as representing any of us. This is Rembrandt at the end of his own troubles, capturing a broken humanity returning to God as a welcoming parent, a parent whose own face is full of compassion. But the light draws the viewer not to the faces, rather, instead, it draws us to the hands. one seemingly more masculine, one seemingly more feminine, perhaps symbols of strength and grace. A depiction of a God who Jesus' stories describe as both a welcoming father and also as a mother hen gathering her chicks under her wings.